Meanwhile, we still don't know when kids under 12 could become vaccine eligible, and we are seeing a concerning rise in COVID cases among children. The American Academy of Pediatrics says there were more than 120,000 cases nationally in the last week. That's up from just 94,000 the week before.
And, of course, that rise comes as a lot of our kids are already back in the classroom, schools grappling with how to safely resume in-person learning. Here to discuss the plans and challenges ahead this fall, we're pleased to introduce Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona. Secretary Cardona, thanks for being with us.
Glad to be here.
Good morning.
Well, now we've already seen some schools in Arizona, Texas closed because of outbreaks. Florida, some kids are more than 5,000 students are quarantining. As we go forward and as more schools start opening up, certainly here along the East Coast and into the Northeast, what are the plans? Because so much of this has become so politicized. Yeah, how do we make sure our kids are going to be safe and that these schools can open?
Across the country, 50 million students are looking forward to getting back to school. That first day of school feeling that we have as students, but also as parents. And we want to make sure that they're safe when they re-enter school. We have a reopening roadmap with details for districts, for families, and it's really important that we listen to our health experts. We're not out of the pandemic yet, so a strong partnership with our health experts will ensure that our schools are safe for our students and our staff, and we have to follow that. We can't politicize it.
What do you say to the superintendents across the country? Because, I mean, you are the leader of the education department, but these superintendents can kind of do what they want. Some of their governors, like in Florida and Texas, are saying no mask mandates. But the superintendents in some of the school districts say we need the mask mandates. What's your advice?
Right. I spoke to superintendents yesterday, and I'm talking to the leaders of superintendents across the country and saying, do what you do best. Reopen schools with that positive energy. Make sure our students and staff are safe. Make sure that you're communicating with families what you're doing to keep students safe. Open up pop-up vaccine clinics in your gymnasiums. Where we know that in those places where the vaccine numbers are higher, it's safer to go in. The community spread is lower. So let's all do our part to get our students back in school. They've been waiting. A year and a half for a lot of these kids. They've been waiting. Let's do what's right for them.
And speaking of vaccinations, my kids are too young, but for children 12 and older who can get vaccinated, you just mentioned pop-up clinics and classrooms. What do you do, or what are the kids supposed to do when their parents are hesitant to get the vaccine, or their parents are saying, don't get the vaccine, don't wear a mask? I mean, what are kids supposed to do?
It's tough. It's tough on students. Students want to be back in schools. I'm visiting 2 high schools today in New York, and I'm going to be talking to athletes, too, who say, please don't jeopardize my season. Let's follow the rules. Let's do what we have to do so we can get back to some sense of normalcy. So in those cases, I would really strongly encourage those districts to reach out to families, have the doctors talk to families and be there at the meetings so that they can hear from the medical experts who know best.
And learning loss, you mentioned this, but a lot of parents are concerned that the past year and a half, how do you balance that with in-person and virtual? And I know that's a tough answer at this point.
Listen, the best way to get students caught up is to have them in the classroom learning with their teachers, with their peers. But with the American Rescue Plan funds, there are funds to accelerate learning, to give students more opportunities. I saw great summer programming, and I know our educators across the country are ready to do this. They're going to get the job done. Let's trust our educators to do what they do best.
You mentioned the American Rescue Plan, $130 billion for schools to provide safety measures, especially for those school districts that have the older schools where spacing is a problem, ventilation. What plans are being made for those schools?
Right. I visited DeKalb County recently in Georgia, and they used some of the American Rescue Plans to make sure that the ventilation systems were upgraded, to make sure that the airflow was better than what it was before. I'm glad to see that across the country, funds are being used to make sure that the facilities are great, because we know infrastructure is equity. All students deserve an opportunity to learn in a building that's conducive to learning and that's safe.
You mentioned New York City, that you're going to be here. We've had such a huge problem with our public schools here with the virtual learning, kids being left behind, and parents really getting a lot of whiplash. Was the school open? Is the school not open? Do you see that happening this school year, or do you think we have better measures in place across the country?
School reopening will depend on community spread. Let's be very clear. If the community spread is high, it's going to impact whether or not schools can be open. So we all need to do our part. Not only our students, not only our educators, but our community needs to do their part to keep the numbers low so we don't jeopardize in-person learning, because that's where students learn best.
When do you think you should get involved, the federal government? Well, as far as recommending close or go virtual or stay open?
Our role here is to really make sure the data's out there. We're working closely with CDC to make sure the data's out there so they can make decisions. But my time as commissioner in Connecticut taught me that different communities have different thresholds because of density and buildings. Some buildings are older than others. So it's really important that we empower our local education leaders to make the decisions on how to keep schools safe.
And real quick, I just want to touch on mental health for especially teenagers, because depression and suicide rates have gone up since since COVID started. What is being done to kind of give them some support and just some help in this area?
I'm glad you brought that up, because oftentimes that doesn't get the attention it needs. We need to do better. We need to build back better and make sure that our schools are prepared to meet the social and emotional and mental health needs of our students and staff. And this is our moment to hit the reset and say we're going to use American Rescue Plan funds to make sure our schools have adequate resources to support our students holistically.
Well, we both have high school seniors this year, so hopefully they have a great final year of high school, and all kids get started off on a great foot. Thanks. Secretary Cardona, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.